Mr. President,
Senator from Iowa,
I ask that the calling of the quorum be suspended.
without objection.
Mr. President, today I come to the Senate about my ongoing Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive oversight regarding the intentional misclassification of law enforcement positions. All of this costing the taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. As my colleagues know, I've done a lot of ATF oversight work dating back more than a decade. The Obama-Biden administration covered up in Fast and Furious is just one example. But today we don't need to go back to 2011. Today we'll start in January 2018. According to emails provided to me by ATF whistleblowers, ATF leadership was notified in January 2018 that some non-law enforcement positions were misclassified as law enforcement. That misclassification costs taxpayers tens of millions of dollars because law enforcement gets paid more than non-law enforcement positions. Specifically, in these ATF emails from January and June of 2018, whistleblowers alerted ATF officials that positions in the Human Resource Division were misclassified. The positions were classified as law enforcement, but they performed no law enforcement duties. This is an example that I keep telling my colleagues we need to pay more attention to information that comes from these patriotic people we call whistleblowers. Accordingly, these positions were misclassified in violation of law. That's what oversight by Congress is all about, to make sure that the executive branch faithfully executes the laws according to the Constitution. Emails from July 2019 show that whistleblowers contacted the Justice Management Division at the Department of Justice headquarters about these very problems. The whistleblowers informed the Justice Management Division that they notified ATF management of the misclassified positions and that ATF hadn't corrected this illegal conduct. Based on what whistleblowers have told my office, the Justice Department didn't even bother to get back to the whistleblowers. Then in July 2019, one whistleblower reported the matter to the Office of Special Counsel, and the other whistleblowers made their report to that same office April of 2020. After the second whistleblowers reported ATF misconduct to the Office of Special Counsel, that office opened the claim for investigation in May of 2020. On June 9th, 2020, the Office of Special Counsel determined there was a substantial likelihood both whistleblowers' allegations disclosed violation of law, of rule, or regulation, a gross waste of funds, and gross mismanagement. Once again, emphasizing tens of millions of dollars wasted here. The Office of Special Counsel referred the matter to the Attorney General for investigation. Then, November 2, 2020, the Office of Personnel Management partially suspended ATF's position misclassification authority. That office did so after preliminary findings from their investigation revealed that certain ATF non-enforcement positions were misclassified in violation of statute and regulation. On March 1st, 2021, the Office of Personnel Management issued their final report substantiating the whistleblower's claims and found, I quote, ATF leadership had acted outside of the merit system principles and demonstrated disregard for the rule of law and regulations, end quote. This illegal scheme came to light because of brave whistleblowers. The ATF whistleblowers, we now know, were right. All those government bureaucrats should have listened to the whistleblowers from the beginning. Instead, ATF rudely ignored their evidence and obviously ignored whistleblowers doing what they thought was right for our country. So I wrote Attorney General Garland and then acting ATF Director Richardson concerning these findings on October the 6th, 2021. I asked for copies of the final Office of Personnel Management report and accounting of how much taxpayer dollars were wasted due to the ATF's illegal misconduct. I also asked how long ATF unlawfully misclassified positions and the total number of misclassified positions within all of the ATF. On December 15th, 2021, the Justice Department responded that it couldn't provide answers because of various ongoing investigations. How tired I am of hearing from our law enforcement agencies in the federal government that they can't comment to oversight investigations by the Congress because of quote unquote ongoing investigation. It's an excuse to avoid what they promise us every time they come before Congress, that they'll answer our questions. Going on now, April the 7th, 6 months later, in 2022, the Justice Department provided me with a redacted copy of their investigative report, which they submitted to the Office of Special Counsel March the 29th of 2022. But they still failed to fully answer all of my questions. So let me remind the executive branch yet again, the United States Congress maintains independent constitutional authority to investigate the federal government's irrespective of any ongoing federal investigation. After the conclusion of the investigation, which was May 2, 2023, the Office of Special Counsel notified President Biden that, quote, whistleblowers' allegations were wholly substantiated, end of quote. That investigation found, to quote once again, substantial waste, mismanagement, unlawful employment practices at the ATF, end quote. It also found, to quote again, for years, the agency intentionally misled jobs, misclassified jobs as law enforcement and paid those employees benefits to which they were not entitled, end of quote. The Office of Special Counsel also found that ATF's illegal scheme wasted at least 20 million taxpayers' dollars. When is the government going to learn that it needs to listen to whistleblowers instead of treating these patriotic whistleblowers like skunks at a picnic? ATF could have saved the taxpayers at least $20 million if they would have listened to these brave whistleblowers. Then on November 6, 2023, the Office of Personnel Management wrote to ATF and the Justice Department. Now, incredibly, if you can believe this, that letter restored ATF's position classification authority effective immediately, even though ATF was unable to provide the necessary evidence to support that its updated position classifications were proper and within the law. This restoration doesn't bring this matter to a close. On January 30th this year, my colleague from Iowa, Senator Ernest, and I wrote to the Justice Department and to the ATF. In that letter, we noted that ATF Internal Affairs Division had been investigating the illegal scheme. We asked for answers and for findings relating to that investigation. Those government employees who were notified of the illegal misconduct and did nothing to investigate or stop it must be held accountable, because in this town, if heads don't roll, nothing changes. And of course, that applies the same, of course, to those who participated in that scheme of misclassification. No one is above the law, but as of right now, because of ATF's failure to give any update on the internal investigation, all Congress knows is that nobody's been held accountable. It's very clearly hypocritical of the Biden administration's ATF to revoke the licenses of firearms sellers for innocent clerical errors, but at the same time refuses to hold its own employees accountable for an illegal misclassification scheme. Finally, in our January 2024 letter, we also noted that whistleblowers alleged to us that the ATF had been illegally misclassifying positions for more than the 5-year period reviewed by the Office of Personnel Management. The Office of Special Counsel noted in their letter to President Biden, the evidence suggests that ATF engaged in this illegal activity since at least 2003, 2004. The whistleblowers also alleged to us that hundreds of employees across all ATF field divisions and offices occupied positions that were identified as misclassified. Accordingly, if true, the cost to taxpayers for these misclassifications is likely significantly higher than $20 million. And if true, the review done by the Office of Personnel Management was really, really narrow. Clearly, the Justice Department and the ATF have a lot of explaining to do. The taxpayers deserve to know how much of their money ATF wasted. The taxpayers deserve to know who was held accountable and how they were held accountable. And if nobody was held accountable, why not? The entire matter is an example of the important role whistleblowers play in shining light on government waste, fraud, and abuse. Without the continued persistence of these brave whistleblowers to report wrongdoing that they know about, and maybe the people in the head of the departments don't know about, ATF's illegal misclassification scheme, substantial waste of taxpayers' funds, and gross mismanagement would have likely continued. I commend the grit of these whistleblowers. Senator Ernst's and my oversight on this issue will continue. I suggest the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.